Today my son is starting high school. As I woke up early to get ready to take him to school, memories of my youth flooded my mind, and I wished him luck, hoping he wouldn't experience what I did. After a short car ride, we finally arrived at the school. Dropping him off, memories of the incidents at that old school rushed back to me. I was 17 at the time. As I leaned towards the door that wouldn't budge no matter how hard I tried in the dark room, I thought I had been tricked. I felt foolish, and this was my punishment. Playing 7 Minutes in Heaven seemed like a good idea at first. I never suspected they would lock me alone in that room. But looking back now, I should have known. I wasn't a popular kid, but I guess I was good enough since they hadn't bothered with me seriously until now. Oh, I couldn't even realize their intentions were malicious. It was partly my fault, actually. Taking a restroom break near the end of the game and giving them a chance to play a prank on me was a mistake. Yes, looking back now, it was definitely my fault. When the party host, Trevor, pushed me into the dark room and said there was a girl waiting for me inside, nobody knew what would happen. When Trevor shoved me, I didn't even have time to figure out which girl was missing from the group to understand who I might be kissing in the darkness. I assumed someone would be in there with me. But when I reached out with my arms in the darkness, all I felt were curtains and emptiness. I could hear my classmates making kissing sounds from behind the door, teasing me. "Very funny," I muttered and punched the door hard. "Let me out." They responded with the same fake kissing sounds. I was supposed to endure 7 minutes alone in the dark. If they found it hilarious, maybe it would be longer. If only I had my phone with me, it wouldn't be so bad, but I had placed all phones on a spinning table and randomly selected 2 phones to determine the girl and guy who would enter the room. Alone in the dark with nothing to entertain me, I sighed and waited. It took a minute or 2 for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. Once they did, I saw a figure behind the hanging coats in the opposite corner, as if someone was sitting there. Even then, I wasn't entirely sure it was a person. Based on my experiences, it could just be a vacuum cleaner. But then I saw 2 eyes gleaming at me in the darkness, and I nearly jumped out of my skin. "You scared me," I said, relieved to know I wasn't alone, both from stress and because I was glad I wasn't alone. "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked. "You're not alone," came the soft, sensual, deep voice in response. It sounded like an attractive piano teacher or a nurse. Whose voice was it anyway? Not any of the guests I remembered from the party. "Who are you?" I asked. "Who are you?" she asked me back. "Jack," I said. Whispering my name sent shivers down my spine. His voice was so captivating. It was like the female version of the guy who tells horror stories. I couldn't remember the guy's name now. She had the same soft tone. This girl's voice had that tone that made me almost happy to be locked in this room alone. Maybe she was some nerd, but she didn't sound like an ugly girl at all. Her voice was like that of an angel. "Do you want a kiss?" I asked bluntly. Something about her made me come out of my shell, and besides, that's what I was here for anyway. "The game's called 7 Minutes in Heaven, right?" I said. "Kiss me," she whispered slowly. Crawling towards me, I could hear her coming closer. Her eyes were fixed on me like a cat's eyes in the night. With the courage the darkness gave me, I didn't do anything. I just leaned against the wall, watching her silhouette inch closer to me. I had never kissed anyone before, and if I were to kiss someone, it would be now in this moment. She put her cold hand on my arm and leaned in close to my ear. "Jack," she whispered, her breath warm and moist against my skin. Her fingers tightened around my arm. It felt like sandpaper. Her lips brushed against mine as she whispered, "Kiss me." I closed my eyes and turned my head to kiss her lips. They were rough and dry, but I didn't mind. The kiss was amazing despite everything. It was a great first for me. Since I couldn't see her face, I could imagine whoever I wanted. The face I imagined was Melissa's, the girl who sat 3 rows away from me in science class. Then I heard a voice from the door. They had removed the barrier they had put to lock me behind the door. I thought it wasn't time yet. The events were still unfolding. Whoever that girl in the room was, I was sure she was thinking the same things as me. She had started holding onto my arm tighter, and now it hurt. My mom used to hold me like that when she was about to drag me out of a place, but just before she let go of me, the door opened, and the room was bathed in light. "What are you doing, freak?" Trevor asked. There was nothing holding my arm now. Now I was leaning forward, tongue out, in an empty room. If it wasn't for the fear, I would have died of embarrassment. As you understand, just before the door opened completely, my mysterious kissing partner disappeared. But for a moment, I saw what she looked like. Pale skin, sunken eyes, skin and bones, hair barely covering the wounds on her head. There was nothing attractive about her. I tried to explain what had happened, but they didn't believe me, did they? I can't blame them, though. After all they saw was an empty room. I could have been labeled a weirdo forever, if it weren't for one thing, the red handprint on my arm. Actually, two things and one more. Trevor entering to prove there was nothing to be afraid of and never coming back out.